Hi friends, pull up a yoga mat. Let's do some yoga together. You know, you may like to have a blanket, maybe a shawl to cover up with, a couple blocks. You can always use a chair, you can use the wall. We can make the yoga work really for anyone. We each may have different needs, and that's absolutely fine. This can even be done from your bed. This series is called the series to energize. And one of the suggestions is to do this when you wake up in the morning. But we each have our preferences. So we'll start on the back, supine. You can get there however it makes sense for you. You might come down one hand at a time or one arm at a time. And as long as you check behind you and be sure there's safe space, you might come down one vertebra at a time. And once you reach down, you can give yourself a good stretch. So I'm going to move a bit away from the wall, reaching through your fingers and toes. You might notice how your back might lift a bit off of whichever surface you're on. And then you might practice pressing your back down. So that little spot that usually pops up a bit, you could press that down, and that's how you're going to protect your back in this exercise. So if it doesn't make sense now, no worries, we'll practice. I'll talk us through it slow motion. So after your big stretch, you're going to lift your head, your feet, and your hands if possible, and your hands rest next to your hips, but they're not touching your hips. So you can see now, if my back is pressed down, my front body is more activated. And then we do what we call the breath of fire. So another way to press your back down is to bend your knees. And you might be better able to give your pelvic area that little tilt that helps you press down. So just let it be a practice. And breath of fire is that soft pump at your navel center. It's soft and it's fast. So I'll show you what it looks like from this place. My hands are not pushing my belly. I just want you to see them going up and down. So I usually start after a good inhale and then pumping. And you may not go that fast at first. Eventually you might. The pump at my belly pushes the exhale out my nose, and the inhale will follow. So it might go a little slower while you get the hang of it. So let's start again. A nice big stretch. Maybe you'll even stretch a little more through one side, and then the other side, and then both sides. And when you're ready, you'll lift the head, the heart, the hands, the feet. Nice big inhale. Breath of fire. Take a break when you need one. Come back in when you're ready. Releasing, resting, finding your breathing. Maybe you'll hold as you bend your knees behind the upper legs. Maybe you'll hold on top of the low legs. Maybe you'll give it a good squeeze in, and again find your breathing. And maybe breath of fire again. Releasing, breathing. You might like to rock and roll on your spine a bit, on your hips a bit, the backs of your hips. You could rock to one side and rest there a moment and eventually press up with your top hand, or you could start to rock forward and back and come up to your seat. So you'll see which one works for you. So if you're resting on one side, you can take a moment there and this top hand presses down to bring you up. And either way works really. And you go at your own pace. This pace that I'm setting might be a bit more quick for the person who came in for her private and asked for a video to be made. So if you are looking for your own directions, be in touch and we'll figure it out. I also have music to go along with our postures if you're interested. So this is the last part of the series to energize. It's called the Ego Eradicator. The map of the hand in yoga is related to various points in the body, as other so-called ancient medicines that have maps of the body, like Chinese medicine, acupressure, acupuncture. It seems similar. Your forefingers fold down, so I'm bending at my middle knuckle there, and my fingertips are pressing into what some might call the ridge of the palm or the top of your palm there. And the thumbs stay out. The thumbs symbolize the ego or your own unique personality. And your arms reach up and your thumbs reach up, and we find our breathing. Maybe you need to find your breathing a bit longer after all of that breath of fire. I usually start my breath of fire after an inhale, so see what works for you. Remember, you can take a break, you can come back in when you're ready. You don't have to come back in, you may have had enough. Releasing, breathing, finding your own breath now. And taking your time as we move on to the next set, or Kriya, which is a series to find balance between the head and the heart. So we were practicing this a lot in February, but really it's good for any time, isn't it? So the first part, you sit, you could be in a chair, you could be on the edge of your bed with your feet pressing into the floor. You can be right here on your mat. You don't have to have a mat. I don't think the ancient ones had mats. Your arms come long, your palms press away, and you're bent at the wrists. Your fingers are up for part one, pointing up to the ceiling. They come forward for part two, part three up, and part four back. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The directions are pretty specific for the moving and the breathing, but please let it work for you. And if you have questions, be in touch with me. You can email, you can text, you can call. So in, out, when you're ready. Mostly we're breathing through the nose with these exercises. The mouth is closed if possible. excuse me. I believe that's the breath of fire doing its work. It's a cleansing breath. So if you need a tissue, by all means, help yourself to one. And I'll see if I can do a few more here. Finding your breath, nice inhale, slow, steady exhale. Releasing. The directions actually say to rub your shoulders when you're done with the arm twists before we move on to the arm arcs. This set also has 3 parts. So the idea is to, let me tell you a little bit of the story here from my teacher. This set helps to bring a balance between logic and feeling, between ideas and the fire to put them into action, between an overly intellectual mind and overly sensitive emotions. It aligns the head and heart so you can be great and graceful, aware and loving. The second part, arm arcs, you press your palms away as you did the first time. Your arms lift, your hands lift over the front of the crown of your head. I still have the bend at my wrist there. And then they come back to the middle. And then they lift and they're up over the back of your crown. I like to switch which hand is on top and which hand is on bottom. It just feels more balanced for me. And if you can, you're inhaling on the way up, exhaling to the middle part. Finding your breath. The third and final part of this set or series or kriya is called crow squats. So it seems like a combination of what I first learned as goddess squat. And you could do this from a chair. You just have to be sure you know where you're aiming to find your seat. So I will show you with blocks. You could have blocks as your seat. Just be sure they're not wobbly. You want them to be sturdy underneath you. The thing with having a chair or blocks underneath you is that you have to aim for them when you're on your way down. So you may choose not to use them at all and just see how it happens for you. I'm usually happier if my feet are wider than my hips and my heels are in and my toes are out. So we go back to that lovely arm arc, and well, hopefully I'll stay in the screen. I'll move back if not. And we lift up for part 1. Let me move back. And And now you'll see what happens if I aim for my blocks. And we come down for part 2. And then it's 3 arms above the back of your head and 4 back down. So you don't have to have the chair or the blocks underneath you. And you may choose to do something different. There we are. That works for you better. So let's see what happens here. This is part 1, 2, 3, 4. If you want to come down lower, you can. If it feels better to reach your seat back behind you, go for it. See how your knees feel best. See how your back feels best. Find your breathing. The invitation is to inhale on the way up and exhale on the way down. Powerful breathing. Coming down, resting, finding your breath. However you can get there, you might take a moment in your staff pose. You might need to walk it out and shake it out and wiggle it out. And as you do this, you might add on, or you might do less, depending on the day and the time that you're doing this. I think the first time, what did I do? Maybe around 72 breaths, maybe around 36 breaths. Sometimes I go up to 108 breaths. Depends on how we're feeling. Whew. And finding your breath. Maybe we'll lengthen and maybe we'll bow forward and notice our breathing change now as we slow down. You could count your breathing if you like, you don't have to. Sometimes it's nice to just have an awareness of where our breath is. And as you're ready, we'll take rest. So if you're at the wall and you want to swivel around and get your legs up the wall, please do. Maybe you'd like a roll of blanket under some part of your back. I'll turn so you can see this. Or under your legs. Sometimes we like to prop various parts of the body. So you could take a supportive fish if you like. I have the blanket against my low back. And I'm reaching back. This blanket is just almost long enough to support my head. Some of us really prefer our head higher than the heart. Some of us prefer the head more in line with the heart, and others prefer the head lower than the heart. So, and that changes for me, it might change for you. If you have your layers nearby, you may want to cover up and take rest. Even just for a moment after that series to bring balance to the overthinking mind and the overly sensitive heart, knowing we're not alone. This is a set in a book written for all of us to learn from. To honor our emotions, perhaps to give ourselves permission even to observe them, watching them come and go as we find our breathing. Or at this point, maybe you're ready to release the finding of the breath and simply let it be, breathing while you rest. Sometimes when we rest, the mind grows busy, or sometimes all of that breathing tuckers us out and we're ready to rest. If the props don't feel just right for you, however you've chosen to rest, give yourself permission to roll off of them and simply be on the floor. Or maybe you need or want to bend your knees. See how it works for you. You're welcome to rest for a longer period of time. When you feel complete, you might start to awaken through fingers and toes. You might start to round through ankles and wrists. You might give yourself a nice big stretch if that works for you. Maybe bending the knees. The knees can even rest against each other. Maybe you'll roll to one side of your mat, and sometimes the bottom arm becomes like a pillow for the head. And maybe that top hand again presses down to lift you up to your seat. Sometimes we like to sit up on a blanket just to give our hips and our seat a little boost. Can be nice. Sometimes we like blocks under our knees, and sometimes not. Sometimes we just like to be where we are without the props. You're welcome to cover up and keep your spine warm after all of that moving. You might feel a temperature change, and you might like to let your hands rest open, receiving all the good that there is to receive, all the good that you stirred up within, all of that energy that you found on your very own by moving your own body, by breathing your own body. That's you doing incredible things. Our bodies are incredible. Taking good care of this home that is our body. Maybe a bit of moon breathing. You could take the mudra I was taught, index, middle down, ring, pinky out, thumb closes right nostril. You can place your fingers however it works for you. And we'll breathe only through the left side. One teacher taught me to breathe out first and then in. Another teacher taught me to breathe in first and then out. Maybe you'll experiment. If you'd like to switch to sun breathing, you could take the ring and the pinky and close the moon side, the left side, and breathe just through the right side, the sun side. And when you feel complete, perhaps you'll bring your hands to your heart center. And we'll close with the heart center sound. I have to go through them. Om and for the crown. Om and for the third eye. Ham and E for the throat. Yam and I believe, for the heart. After you breathe in as you wish. Oh, I think it's yam and A, excuse me. Yam. A. Two more. Yam. One more after the breath in. Yam. Yam for energizing our heart centers. A for calming our heart centers. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. This is the first part of 2 installments. If you're interested in a yoga private or semi-private, be in touch and we'll meet here at the studio and then create a video for your practice at home. Satnam, namaste, happy belated Valentine's Day, and I'll see you soon.